This podcast is also available via stageleak.com, the groundbreaking new platform for live performing arts. Please support the podcast by liking, subscribing, commenting, and tagging the podcast. It helps us to continue to bring the industry high-level content. I'm your host, Shanae Stiletto, and my guest on today's Circuspreneur Podcast is one half of Duo Unity, Leah Torrin Jenner. Welcome to the podcast, Leah.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here tonight.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to have you. And shout out to Francis, the other half of Duo Unity. You are with us in spirit, Francis. And to let listeners know a little bit about Duo Unity, Leah Torrin Jenner and Francis Perreault met each other at the École Nationale du Cirque de Montréal in 2011. In search of new challenges, they decided to work together in one single Cyr wheel to create an innovative circus discipline, the Cyr Wheel Duo. After training together for over 3 years, Duo Unity found their style in combining their strengths with poetic sensibility while creating a romantic atmosphere by mixing grace with danger. For their act, Leah and Francis have been awarded with a bronze medal at the prestigious Festival Mondial du Cirque du Demain, a silver award at the Budapest Lyrical Circus Festival, and a gold medal and audience award at the Festival International du Cirque du Albacete. For their many accomplishments, they have been invited to perform at the Festival International du Cirque de Monte Carlo in 2025. Duo Unity has worked internationally with different circus and variety shows, as well as special events and TV appearances. Their latest long-term engagement has been with the prestigious Moulin Rouge in Paris, and that is where you just finished performing just right now.
Yeah,
Leah.
just minutes ago, I washed up my face. I was still full of makeup, and now I'm here in my little apartment in Montmartre in the middle of Paris, and I'm speaking to you via this amazing connection we have here.
That is wonderful. And we can start off with discussing your work right now at the Moulin Rouge in Paris, Leo, because that is such a coveted contract and such a coveted performing gig, job, opportunity. Everybody wants to work at the Moulin Rouge. I don't care who you are. You would hope and wish, it's been on my bucket list for quite some time, but we might not ever get there. But that's okay. I can live through you and Francis, like many other friends work there. And you guys have gone, kind of like in sections of working at the Moulin Rouge. You've gone for a bit and then you've had a break and then now you've come back. So can you take us inside of the world of the Moulin Rouge first for those that maybe don't understand why the Moulin Rouge Paris is so significant, even though I can't imagine that there's someone out there that does not know. However, for those that are maybe doing a little introductory course into the circus industry, tell them what kind of makes the Moulin Rouge this kind of space that people would dream to work there one day, because I think it really is that type of contract that the few that make it in there are very lucky to do that in their career.
Yeah, I mean, there are several things. First of all, it's a cabaret. So it's probably the most famous cabaret there is. It's in Paris. It's like over 130 years old. And it's famous for also the movie. That's where mostly people know it from, but mostly for their can-can dance. So it's a type of dance that girls do with like long skirts and screaming and like throwing the skirts around and kicking and splits. And that's kind of where this is the roots that people know it for. But I think now it's mostly like, it's one of the only places that has had shows for like ever and ever, every single night. There's 2 shows every single night. It's always full. Everybody wants to come see it. If you go to Paris, like tourists want to come see it. And therefore it's special because it's like this one-of-a-kind place that only exists here. It's a dance show. So most of it is dance. There's 3 different tableaus of dance. There's parts where girls are topless, which is also exotic, and that's also a reason why a lot of people want to come see it. It is, I wouldn't say it's sexual, though. I would say it's sensual, and it's done in a very aesthetic way. Sometimes I even describe it as Victoria's Secret models, but instead of having underwear, they're just wearing like feathers and all of the pearls and all of those things, and then some of them are topless. And in the middle of all of that, there's 3 circus acts. And part of the reason why so many people want to work here is because it's hard, because there's only 3. In most circus shows, you have like 10 to 15 acts. And another difficulty is that there's no aerial. So it's a small stage. It's very much like you walk down the stairs and you enter a different world from like 30 years in the past. And it's like super romantic and nicely decorated. The stage is really small. So that kind of has also like makes it hard to perform because you can really just have acts that can perform on 6 by 6 meters that don't need any aerial. And therefore, for us performing with the Cyr wheel, it's kind of perfect because it has exactly the dimensions we have. We have a romantic act, so it kind of fits into the vibe of the show. And we actually got this engagement because we performed, as you said at the beginning, in Paris at the Cirque de Demain Circus Festival. And we won the bronze medal, but also a Moulin Rouge prize. So the owner of the Moulin Rouge, it's still a family business, came to see us there and gave us a prize because he thought that our act would fit nicely into his venue. So I'm suggesting for people who want to work here, one of the best platforms is the Paris Festival, which is also in itself really hard to get into.
Yes.
But so this is pretty much what it is. It's 12 shows a week, 6 shows, 6 days, every day 2 shows. I only have 1 day off. And the show actually never stops. So on the day I am off, there's another act replacing us. So it's kind of like this windmill of shows every night, full every night. And a very cool place to work. And a very good condition contract as well.
How long will you be at the Moulin Rouge during this time of your run, Leah?
So we signed for 6 months, January till June 2025. But because of Monte Carlo Festival, we skipped the first month. So now I'm going to be here for another 4 months until the end of June 2025.
I think it's a really amazing reminder. And folks, if you happen to be around in the area, don't miss the opportunity to go and see Leah and Francis. How easy is it to get a ticket? I mean, I know it's always sold out. Like you said, it's always full. Some people don't believe that, but these shows are always full.
Yeah, so I would suggest at least 2 weeks in advance. If you're going on a weekday, it's easier for sure. Like you might be able to squeeze it in, like if you go on a Monday night or on a Thursday night. On Friday, Saturday, you want to try to be at least a month earlier or maybe even more than that. And it's expensive. That's the thing. Like you need to be ready that it's an expensive night, but it's fun and it's like a thing that you do once in a lifetime. So I feel like if you're going for it and you want to do the full experience, then you should definitely come see it.
Yes, it's totally worth it. And it's worth it because you both are there and you are fresh off your run, your appearance, I would say, at the at Monte Carlo Festival, which is again another really brilliant platform, to elevate yourself and use that as well, which I love that you talked about where you got the opportunity for the Moulin Rouge and reminding folks of the power of festivals and obviously doing well and what that can turn into and having that type of visibility. But I would love to discuss this wasn't that long ago. This just happened. It was just the other month where you were in Monte Carlo. And could you tell us a bit, Leah, about your experience with you and Francis as Duo Unity and performing at such a prestigious circus festival that also too is, very traditional. It has a very unique essence to it. It's something that can't really be duplicated, I think, anywhere else. And that's why these festivals in this way are so prolific and powerful, just like Crazy Horse or just like, the Moulin Rouge in Paris. So could you take us through your experience at the festival? And, how do you reflect on festivals? Because festivals are a competitive space. They can be very intimidating, a little bit overwhelming, because literally it's the presence of so many big characters in the industry from all over the world are coming into the space and people that really know circus. Like it is in their DNA of circus, and a combination. So I'd love to hear about the preparation, the experience, and then ultimately, what do you think about the future in terms of your relationship to the Monte Carlo Festival?
Wow, big question. But yes,
Yeah.
so it was a big, big event for us. It was probably the biggest one we've had so far. And we've been working together for over 10 years now. So it was definitely a highlight. And it had always been on our list on dreams of one day we would like to do that, but we had no idea how to get in there because as you say, it's a traditional circus festival and we're not from a circus family. So Francis and me, we met at the Montreal Circus School. Francis is Canadian, I'm German. So we both not from circus families. And it was always kind of it's this thing that we would love to do one day, but how to get there. And also the other thing is we're performing with Cyr Wheel and Cyr Wheel needs a hard floor. And in these traditional circus festivals, they still have animals. So very often they do not have a hard floor. They have like sawdust for the animals, and then they will put a carpet on top. So for all the aerial acts and stuff, you're just working with a carpet. But if you need a hard floor, that's a bit tricky. So it was kind of a chain of events how we got invited, because for this festival, you need an invitation. You cannot just like send in your video and a selected group of people is going to analyze it. It's really, there's a small group of people, including Princess Stephanie, who is the princess of Monte Carlo. And these people for years and years will go to other circus festivals, will go to big circus venues, and they will just look what there is. And they will very often cast somebody early on, and they will kind of see how this act develops. So we know that the artistic team of this festival, of Monte Carlo Festival, has seen us perform in other festivals and has probably also seen us in the Moulin Rouge in Paris. And like, they have been there, but we've never been in contact. And it was kind of a coincidence where during the pandemic, we didn't work together for a while. I worked for Cirque du Soleil. Francis became a nurse. So there was a moment where somebody asked me, like, are you guys still working together? And we were like, yeah, we actually are. We're back at the Moulin Rouge in Paris. We're working together after like a 3-year break. And that was a moment where they were like, okay, like this might be the moment. And in this year, in like now in January, they had a hard floor. So they did half of the show with sawdust for the animals, and half of the show they put a really big hard floor because they had a Chinese troupe of bicycles that needed a hard floor just as us. So they were looking for other acts with a hard floor. So it kind of was like a conversation. Then Urs Pils, the artistic director, sent us an email saying he's going to come to the Moulin Rouge in Paris if we were performing. It wasn't like really an audition, but it was kind of like a, let's see. Yeah, exactly. It felt like, ooh, this might be the moment. So that was probably like the most stressful thing of like the starting before, was that like when he sent us this email, he was going to come. We knew he was going to come. So we had the possibility to watch our act back here in Paris. Every show is filmed, just like at Cirque du Soleil, but not a lot of shows have that. So you can go back and you can go watch every single show if you want. So we watched our last performances just to see if there's any small things we wanted to change or like just make it a little bit better. I mean, obviously we knew we were not going to change our own act just because Urs Pils is coming, but we were like, maybe we can like give ourselves like 2 or 3 notes to make it just a little better. And we ended up doing a really good performance when he came, which is actually amazing because I feel like we've been working together now for over 10 years. And we've done also this whole process of like knowing how to work under stress, knowing how the other person works under stress. Because if you're working as a duo, even though maybe you're calm, the other person is not calm, and that will change the whole momentum and all of those things. So we had a really good moment and a really good performance. And after that, he came backstage and he invited us unofficially to come the next year. It was a very nice moment because he didn't totally say, I want you, but it was kind of like, I'm having this floor. Maybe you guys are free. Then we said, well, we're supposed to be back in the Moulin Rouge. And then we looked over to the stage manager and he said, he was kind of like, yeah, probably like the boss will let you go for this. So it was kind of a nice moment. And it took a couple of weeks longer until we get our like real contract and like all the like legal stuff was made. But we kind of knew about this, I think it was probably like in March or April of last year. And then we were like, okay, what do we want to do? We want to change anything? Do we want to, like, this is an opportunity where everybody's going to see us, just like you said, like the whole circus world, especially people from like circus families are going to come and see us. And is there anything we want to add? So a lot of artists actually add harder tricks for this festival because also like the point of danger gives a lot of points. But we were like, our act is not, you cannot compare it to a high wire where we're going to risk our life. Like obviously it's dangerous because we spin really fast, but it's not as dangerous as some of the aerial acts that present in Monte Carlo. So we were like, our strongest point is probably the connection we have on stage and the experience that we have. And therefore we did make new costumes. So we had a completely new costumes made, which I think was very helpful and gave us a different color and gave the act a different color. And we performed at a Christmas circus in Germany that also has a round stage because we were very used to performing on small stages and very front-facing. And in this festival, we knew it would be a big round stage and we needed to include the audience on the sides. And we had supposed like the floor, we didn't really know how it was going to be because a hard floor on top of sawdust is never the same as a theater. So having that experience of doing 4 weeks in a circus that was round, where the floor was super bumpy and going everywhere, with the new costumes. That was our best preparation. And so when we arrived in Monte Carlo, there was hardly no time on stage. Like we had 1 hour where we could fix our lights, music, and spacing. Like we had 1 hour, that was it. At the end of the hour, we ran it once. Then we had a general rehearsal, and then after that, it was a show. There was no more rehearsal. So it was amazing because we had all of the preparation in this other circus before. And when the day came, we were basically just like, let's hope we can enjoy this. Like, this is going to be probably the only time in our lives we're going to do this festival. The fact of being invited and selected is huge. All artists dream of doing this one day, and we have the chance to perform here. And we just wanted to have a good memory of this. And what you said at the beginning of it being like it's a competitive field, there's people judging you, that was never really on our mind, because you could really tell also all the other acts invited. It's all acts with experience. It's all acts that deserve to be there. It's all people who are really good at what they do. And it's hard to compare an aerial act to an animal act, to a Cyr wheel act, to clown. Like it's kind of impossible. So for us, it was never about winning a prize or being better than anybody else. It was really just to enjoy the moment and do a good performance. And we had 2 performances. The first one was good and clean, but we were nervous and we kind of felt like we couldn't really fully take it in. And then after having done that one, it was like, okay, we have one more. This is just for us. And that one was a magical performance. It was like everything was perfect. It felt super safe. It felt like we could really live the moment and share it. And at the end, it was like sharing our art with the people from the circus industry, and also knowing that it's going to be filmed, or it was filmed. It's going to be on television next year at Christmas, and it's going to be shown, like, especially in Europe, it's shown in all the major TV channels. And so it's kind of like we've created this piece of art that it will stay there forever. And we're really proud of ourselves. We had a really like a super beautiful moment after, like tearing up and being like, oh my God, like we did it. And yeah, it feels like maybe a bit of a turning point of our career. Like it was definitely a highlight, and we're going to like see what's going to come out from this.
Oh, that's so beautiful and amazing. I love the detail that you went into, Leah, and I'm glad that it came at this point in your career because you guys are very ready and grounded, and you're very self-aware in where your career is and who you are as artists and as an act. And I think, it speaks to that. Some people, artists get an opportunity at different times in their career. And there's been times in my career where I'm like, I'm so happy it didn't happen until now because I'm in the most grounded, centered place I could possibly be in, right? After having all of these experiences underneath your belt, especially when you're a partnership and the energy and the amount of time it takes to create that partnership and be symbiotic, and you know each other super well, and you've had that time to create that unity and that relationship. So you can actually be present. I know sometimes we've been in experiences where we feel so underprepared, where we are so stressed out, and the moment is bigger than us. And it really feels like you were both able to rest in that moment instead of allowing that moment to overwhelm you, which again, coming back to the fact that we know it's one of the biggest circus platforms in the world and it's so legendary. But I love that it happened at this time in your guys' career where you were both so settled in the fact that you were like, we don't want to miss this moment to enjoy it. We want to remember it. We want to be in our bodies. And that's not something that every single person is able to do. And that's okay because maybe you're just at that time in your career, in your life. There could be so many different outward influences. But I think it's great that you were in that where you didn't feel like it was so overwhelming to the fact that you couldn't take it in. And have fun with it and have enjoyment because so many times our opportunities are shielded or kind of shrouded in a space where we're maybe not enjoying it as much. And sometimes it's hard for us to say that we actually had fun in an opportunity we've been waiting like our entire careers for, where it's like, did you enjoy it? It's like, not really. I just was, there was a lot going on and I was stressed out, but I'm glad I did it, but now it's done. So it's great. And, just to segue out of you discussing about the competitive aspect of that and how, that competitive aspect did not overwhelm you. I come from a competitive background, so I really love competition. I've seen some circus people, they didn't come from a competitive background. So competitive spaces for even festivals is different for them because they're not used to that comparison. They're not used to being judged or scored or having, people look at them like through that lens. But this last year, you actually competed in Cyr Wheel, which is
Yes.
also an official sport along with German Wheel, and you became the world champion of Cyr Wheel after just training for a few short months. So I want to
True.
discuss how that experience was for you. And this is Women's History Month, and I was so inspired by you as a woman of going from the circus environment and then going back into the competitive environment where it is very sportive, right? And so you were in a very different space this last year, which is great that you were doing Moulin Rouge. You were competing and you became the world champion in Cyr Wheel. And then you went and also too did Monte Carlo. So this is like a really huge year from you coming out from Luzia and leaving, this really big contract that you had in Luzia and Cirque du Soleil, coming back to Duo Unity. Francis became a nurse, which is amazing. I love his segue from circus to medicine back to circus. Shout out to that. Super important of how we can evolve and do multiple things throughout our circus career because we can have multiple loves. And I'm sure his circus work informs his medicine, and his medicine now informs his circus work, which I'm sure is a really amazing pairing. So please tell listeners a bit about how you became the most recent world champion of Cyr Wheel as well.
I love how you bring that up because I keep forgetting about this. Like it was a big thing. It was a huge thing, but because it's just a small sport, it kind of like it's like a side thing. And yeah, I'm the world champion. It's a crazy title to have, especially because it's at the base for me. It's a circus apparatus. It's not a sport equipment. But basically what happened is that Cyr Wheel exists, like basically 2003, Cyr Wheel became really popular with Daniel Sear, who invented the Cyr Wheel. He brought it to Cirque de Demain and kind of showed it there for the first time. And then people were like, oh my God, this is a new apparatus, how great. And then it took about like 10 years until it really became a discipline that people were doing more and more. And I learned it when I was in the Montreal Circus School, 2011 till 14. So I was kind of like 10 years after. And one of the first-ish women, I was not the first, I was not the second, I was not the 10th, but I was in the first round of women. And I remember that I was good at it, but I always had the feeling I was like really good at the duo. So when we started working at the duo, we were like, we have something very special here. And I kind of neglected the solo work a bit. I was like, I'm good, but I'm not the best. So let's focus on the thing I'm the best at. And this was kind of a belief I've had for a long time. And even though I've worked with solo and I had really nice contracts, I worked for a whole year with Cirque, which is a smaller company also from Montreal. We did like a world tour and it was successful and I could have probably continued. When the duo came along and we had our first successes with Cirque de Demain and Moulin Rouge, we kind of both stopped working as a solo and we didn't push ourselves even more. And then after the pandemic, I got cast to do Luzia at Cirque du Soleil, and it was an act with 2 Cyr wheels. So it's 2 Cyr wheels and a trapeze at the same time, a dance trapeze, and there's rain. It's one of the most iconic Cirque du Soleil acts, I would say, because like having rain on stage is quite a big thing. And we had so much fun. And it was a great time, and I learned so much like just from the other girls and being around so many amazing people. But also my co-performer, like with the other girl in the act, Sarah Tony, she's from a circus family actually, so completely different background. And we got along super well. And she was a bunch younger, about like 8 years younger than me. And she had way more drive and was like, I want to learn this trick and this trick. And like she was really like, I still have so many things to learn. So then to kind of support her and be there, I was training with her, and she would bring in teachers and was like, oh, I like found this teacher and he's going to come, he's going to teach us tricks. And at the beginning I was kind of like, well, I'm not sure if I still want to learn so many new tricks, but somehow I learned them really fast. And it was probably because I've had like this like 8 years of performing and being in the wheel that my body kind of got better and I didn't realize. And so coaches came in and I was learning tricks really fast. I was like, oh, this is actually fun. Like this is way more fun than I thought this would be. And then I met a coach. So she brought in coaches, I brought in coaches, and then I brought in this German coach. His name is Hauke. Shout out to him because he would love if anybody is doing Cyr Wheel out there and he wants to get better in Cyr Wheel. He has kind of the Cyr Wheel hotspot in the middle of Germany. It's a little bit in the middle of nowhere, but he has like access to gyms basically all the time, and it's like big gyms, and he loves Cyr Wheel and he wants to share his passion with like everybody. So he basically, I called him once for like, it was a kind of coincidence of things. I was working on a new trick. He wanted to see the backstage of Cirque du Soleil. So I invited him to come to Cirque du Soleil. and we were working on some big tricks. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And he told me about these competitions that there are in Germany. And they're basically held together with German wheel. So German wheel in Germany is not called German wheel. That would be really weird. It's actually called Gym wheel or Rhönrad, like the original name. And they, since about like 10 years, they decided that Cyr wheel is kind of very similar to what they do. And also there is kind of an origin. This would be a very long story, but there's an origin of Cyr wheel that also comes from that German wheel. So there's competitions and they have rules how to judge it. You do two routines. One is a technical routine where you enter the wheel and you do 10 tricks. You do them back to back, each trick 3 times, no more than 3 turns in between. It's a very technical thing. And for people doing Cyr wheel, it's a cool challenge, I feel. For people who don't do Cyr wheel, it's probably just like doing tricks back to back. And then you have a second routine that's an artistic routine where you have music and you get also judged on like artistic design and like creativity. And so he was teaching me and he was telling me about these competitions. And he said, well, like the competition world is still small and it's very much coming from sport. And it would be really cool to have influence from circus coming in there because just the way how we use the wheel is different than people from sport. And so we made this deal where he said, you can come and train in my gym anytime and I'll teach you and I'll train you, but you need to start competing. And I was like, okay. I mean, I've never really liked the idea of competing because I still think it's like an art form, but hey, why not? I mean, I have nothing to lose. And if I get this free training, I mean, I'm going to start doing this. So I did my first competition, which was a small competition, and I really enjoyed it. And then we talked about the World Championships. And he was like, well, do you want to do World Championships the next summer? So this was probably around like 8 months before the World Championships. And I asked all these questions, how this would work. And then we figured out, because I'm actually half German, half Spanish, that nobody was competing for Spain. So if I was competing for Spain, I didn't have to do any like qualifications. I could just basically buy myself a permit, pay a bunch of money, but no qualifications needed. So then I was like, this is great. Exactly. Because the qualifications, I mean, it's it's 3 competitions you have to do before to be selected. And I would have probably also made the German team. I mean, obviously I would have because I won at the end, but it's like time off performing where you're going for free to like a little gym to compete. So basically at the end, it was like, this is the best way to do it. And then when I decided to actually do it, I was like, I want to do it good. Like, I don't want to just participate and just do it. I want to give myself a chance of winning. So I like really looked at all the rules and all the elements that give points. And I was training, as you said, for about like 4 months, I was training like a lot. I was performing at the same time and I was training, like, I would say 1 to 2 hours every day extra, just to learn these tricks. But at that point, I was like, I'm just doing this for the heck of it. And I got better and better. And then when I was competing, I did not think I would win. I was hoping for a medal, but I didn't think I would win because the German team is really good. Like technically, they're really, really good. And so, yeah, it happened that like the performance day, I did like a perfect performance and the others did not do perfect. And then it happened. And at the end, I mean, competition is competition. And yeah, and so I'm the current, world champion. And I already told them I would probably do it again. It's every 2 years. And I mean, it's still a challenge. It's not like, even if I do it again next year, it's not going to be like an easy thing or like an obvious that I'm going to win it. It's a hard competition. It's tough, but it also motivated me a lot to train more. And now I continue training just for myself. And I give myself challenges and work on new tricks because it's actually very satisfying to be like, I want to learn this trick. And then you put in time and effort and then you have the trick. It's like, it's cool.
That's amazing. How all of that like worked out for you is
Yeah,
just absolutely amazing. Like what like a synchronistic journey of all of those things coming together to just
it's
like
true.
push you into that spot. Like it just is really phenomenal. And you know, when something is meant for you, it is just honestly just meant for you. I love that you just followed your curiosity and you followed this kind of sequence of events. And for those of you listening in, Leia's Instagram and her social media, she gives such good stories and very consumable stories about her journey in getting to the World Championships. I love your social media and the way that you reflect on your journeys, and it's very effective. You do it in very short increments, but you really just tell the entire story. Like you don't miss any aspect of kind kind of what you went through. And so I'm wishing you luck for your next World Championships. I'm very curious
Thank you.
how that second time around will be for you when you know more, because sometimes I think it's so great to go into a space where you really just don't know very much. And sometimes it's like you're an underdog. And that's why it works out so well for you, because the pressure just is not the same. And that works in your favor. I've seen people maybe the next time around, they know more. So it's a little bit harder, maybe a little bit more intimidating in some ways. And not for everybody, but I think that it comes down to, it's so great when you just don't know what you don't know. And sometimes that can get you further than people that are really embedded in a space and have so many expectations. And you didn't have expectations. You had an amazing coach, which I love seeing your coach online. He's such a character.
Yes.
He's got such a cool, fun personality. I imagine it was like really fun working with him and training with him and stuff. He must have made everything like really as gentle as possible for you, because you're working and you're competing for such high level competition at the exact same time. And many people are starting to do that a lot more now. They're like leaving and going from circus into the Olympics and, kind of melding those worlds in a way that we didn't used to do that so much. So I feel like, you're very much about this time, Leah. So we're coming down to the very end of the podcast, Leah, and in discussing your amazing and phenomenal career. It's been such a pleasure listening to how you describe your experiences and your journey through circus. I really, really like it. And I just wanted to say at the very, at the very end of the podcast, could you give just a little bit, maybe like 1 or 2 minutes of your experience in harnessing social media in the way that you do, that has really, in your words, on your social media platform, really elevated your career, in how you display yourself and where that came from you, and how you feel like it's really benefited yourself as what I like to call it, a circuspreneur in the field, or someone that does circus who's also an entrepreneur and uses the capabilities and the tools that they have around them to, to favor their career positively, and remind and use it in a way that's in the form of a business minded person. Not necessarily that you're using that kind of language, but for me, it's someone that sees the opportunity in harnessing things around them, that are accessible, that are free, but that can also elevate your career in ways that you didn't know and give you opportunities that you maybe originally wouldn't have thought of for yourself. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about that, and then we'll close out.
Yeah, I feel I can tell really a lot of stories about this topic because it has been also like a gradual process, like most of the
Mhm.
things. But if I take it in like a quick way, it was a tryout. I was like, let's see what TikTok brings. Like, what is this new app? What can I do there? I was telling stories and vlogs, and basically it was mostly just showing what I do. It wasn't like super creative or thinking about like really like concepts of videos. It was basically like, I'm working now for Cirque du Soleil. What does my day to day look like? What does my makeup look like? How many costume changes do I have? It's like basically questions that people in the normal world have about circus artists. I was just answering them and showing that. And it had a huge success, and so many people were so interested. So I also then copied the content on Instagram. And for a while, people were not really able to place me like where I'm from. And then when people figured out that I was German, I had all the German community being like, "Oh my God, can you make videos in German? Because we would love that so much more." So I was like, "Oh, that would be so much more work." But I started a second channel, second TikTok, second Instagram in German. And that one took off like even more because, and that's what I realized afterwards, was that people want to follow their own people, like their own tribe, like being like, okay, she's German just like me. And now she's in Montreal and now she's in China. Like they can relate so much more. So I kind of, after a while, was like, I'm still making videos in English, but I'm making a lot less because it's just so much. I would love to get to a system where it works. I can do both, but now I'm focusing on the German content. And it has opened opportunities that are crazy because not only is my platform big enough that I can have brand deals, like an influencer, which I do for products that I actually use and I actually like. I have brand deals with them, and that's actually quite a lot of money. Like seeing also like the long-term idea of like how long will I still be able to perform or in what ability. You could also like then switch it over slowly. So that's like part of, yes, the business idea of like, let's see where this takes me. But what I find way more interesting is a new way of doing live entertainment, which is now there's people buying tickets to shows because they want to come see me. So for example, for this Christmas circus we did last winter, it was in Germany, and it was the first time I had the chance somebody wanted to try this out for me. So I had a code, and people could buy a ticket to the show through my code. And I sold 1,164 tickets for a Christmas show. Like, exactly. It
Oh,
was a lot of
a lot
tickets.
of
It's
tickets.
a lot of tickets. It's a lot of
Oh.
tickets. And exactly. And it was basically, for me, it was amazing because it brought in people to circus that usually do not watch circus. Circus is still something that is kind
Mhm.
of branded as like, it's for kids, or it's like, yeah, it's a bit trashy, but circus can be so much more. And I feel having people online that see all of that and then get curious and then come to see a live show basically gives them a new opportunity to see something that usually they wouldn't have. For the people who are doing the promotion for their show, it's amazing because instead of paying like a billboard and targeting random people, they can target people that already know me. So it makes like so much more sense. And it also increases my value as an artist. Like usually you just get paid for how good you are, how many people there are doing what you do. But if you can prove people that you're going to bring an audience, that definitely increases your value. So there's definitely now a little bit of a strategy that I want to continue doing that. And all of the deals I'm signing now in Germany, I always sign them with a ticket code and with making videos for them. So we do videos on each of our platforms that are like collaborative posts. And then there's like a ticket code, which is mostly, I do get a little bit of a percentage on that, but it's mostly to track where people are from, like who these people are, who this audience is, to kind of really be able to see who these people are. And if everything goes well, like long term, I would see it as maybe one day I have my own show and then I already have my own audience, and like basically doing it the other way around. So that's kind of the whole idea. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. I just spend as many hours making videos as training, but it's fun and it's something that has not really been done yet. So I'm also really excited to see where it takes me.
Oh, it's taking you so many places. That is like a master course in in circuspreneur. That is just absolutely genius. I love that. And thank you for putting that in such a small, kind of perspective of what you did and telling something that's really big, actually. Like you said, a very on branding and the power of that. We discuss branding a lot on the Circuspreneur podcast and how important that is. And I love seeing performers taking it to just completely new levels and innovation within that. And I really feel like it's having a lot of control over your career. It's very, I think, very empowering for those that sometimes feel like the industry is beyond them. This is, I think, a really amazing approach to take the career like into your hands and say, this is the way I'm going to direct it. And then having the freedom to see where it can take you. And then having something that'll take you into the future too, into the different versions of yourself and the different paths you want to lead into. And I'm excited for your show in the future.
Yeah.
I'm excited for my code. So that
Yes. Yes.
But thank you so much, Leah, for sharing Duo Unity with us. And thank you to Francis as well. I adore Francis. And ever since we worked together in Ooh La La several years ago when we met originally, which is funny that I met him as a soloist. And I didn't meet you
Yeah.
both as Duo Unity, but I love that it's come full circle in being able to introduce you to this audience, even though this audience I know already knows you both because you've been very established for a very long time and you're establishing yourself and motivating and inspiring others. So thank you so much, Leah, for coming on to the Circuspreneur podcast. And I am very excited to see all that you continue to do. And for listeners out there, this Circuspreneur podcast is also available on stagelink.com, stagelync.com, the groundbreaking new platform for live performing arts that provides unmatched access and connection to this vibrant world of shows and entertainment. If you're a professional in the performing arts, visit stagelink.com/pro. StageLink Pro, StageLyncPro, offers industry professionals higher visibility, networking opportunities, and tools to support and enhance their careers. Until next time, everyone, I'm your host, Shanae Stiletto. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. I appreciate you and stay safe and stay healthy.